A while back I came across a list of Steam's worst games, and for some reason, Uriel's Chasm stood out to me. I didn't even know from this list that Uriel's Chasm had any biblical references, just saw the name and a couple of screencaps and was intrigued. And so I decided to go check it out. And yeah, this game is bad. A lot of the reviews say things like, I got this game for free and still felt ripped off. This game is nightmare fuel created by a madman, etc. Even a lot of the positive reviews are only positive because the reviewer thought the game was unique. And I agree with a lot of this. The artwork is lackluster at best and hideous at worst. The text on screen is hard to read because of the color choices. The voice acting is so bad, I thought it was text-to-speech at first.
I'll have to hitch a ride on this canister along the spine of the chasm.
A supposedly professional voice actor's pronouncing the CH as chasm instead of chasm. Okay. I have no idea why there are video segments of these people after almost every level. Is this supposed to be the devs making fun of how bad the game is?
Okay, I don't know who made this game, but they upset my friend. I went to church and my God was good. It doesn't make sense that you want everyone to die. This life is too precious,
But by far the worst part of this game is the plot line, which is what I'm going to be covering in detail throughout this video. Okay, let's start at the beginning. And before I get started, I want to say that I'm a Christian gamer, and I believe the Bible is true. So if I sound like I'm making fun of something, I'm not making fun of the Bible, but of the way that it's being represented. I also think it's important to note that all Bible verses in this game come from the King James Version. I'll explain why that's important later. The game starts with Hebrews 11:5-6 appearing on screen. These verses explain how Enoch was taken up into heaven while he was still alive because his faith was great and he pleased God immensely. This is an actual verse from the Bible. I am not disputing the validity of this verse. This leads into the game's intro, in which Sister Tabitha, a nun who fights in space, has been dispatched to seek out the lost orbiting monastery Enoch's Hope, which suddenly disappeared, seemingly without a trace and without warning. Each stage of this game is a completely different gameplay style. The first level is an overhead space shooter section. It's basically an asteroids mod. Shoot asteroids and collect the Bibles that come out. Avoid getting hit by asteroids or debris. If an enemy spaceship called a cherubim appears, destroy it and collect the fuel. Avoid the giant red thing that's flying around. This is the garden, a mouthful of teeth floating in space and hell-bent on devouring Tabitha. Spend too much time in its shadow and you will lose all your faith and die. Keep an eye on your faith meter on the right side. This is basically your HP meter. Run out of either fuel or faith and the level restarts. When your faith is a higher number than the gardens, the stage ends automatically. The design of this level is completely nonsensical. Like, why are Bibles hidden in asteroids of all places? Why are cherubim, a type of angel, out to kill us? And for that matter, why do angels resemble spaceships? What is that creepy brown stuff in the background? And just what is the garden? Spoiler alert, we never actually get answers to any of these questions. Despite all this, I personally thought this level was kind of fun. There's way too much going on the screen to really make sense of a lot of it. The HUD overlay design is annoying and makes it hard to see some of the asteroids that are flying at you constantly. Tabitha's face takes up way too much of the screen, and there is simply no time to pause and read the Bible verses as you collect them. But the ship leaves this cool little blue trail. The garden is large enough and terrifying enough to feel like a threat. And the map design, I think it's kind of genius. It moves with the ship and gives instant feedback on the positions of everything on screen in real time, without your eyes having to flick to a corner of the screen to check a map. Yeah, I'm shocked too. Even in a game this bad, I found something I actually really liked. Oh, and I have to comment on this stage's music. I see mixed reactions to the music. I personally think that this first level has a really good theme, although it could probably do without that synth that sounds like a musical saw. Unfortunately, while this stage left me wondering why the game has so many bad reviews, because I thought this one was not terrible, just not anything to write home about, the rest of the game pretty well explains all the bad reviews. Oh boy. Second level is a side-scrolling shooter in which Tabitha has hitched a ride on a tank of ammo, which has the most ridiculously long name I've ever seen in a sci-fi story. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. The music is still pretty good, and the gameplay isn't any more difficult than a lot of NES side-scrolling shooters that I've seen, like old video games. The artwork is still as creepy as in the first stage, and you can see the garden spinning around in the background. But I think the most unsettling thing about this level is the crosses that fire bullets at you. Like, Tabitha's a nun. Why are crosses, of all things, trying to kill her? It made no sense to me at the time. The thing I have to give kudos for, the hitbox is very small. Some bullets would even graze Tabitha's feet, and she still didn't take damage. The canister you're riding also doesn't take damage if it gets hit. Didn't keep me from dying numerous times, though. Oh, and while I'm on the subject of gameplay, I want to take the time to mention that this game is not the least bit glitchy. It plays extremely well despite having no controller support. You use the arrow keys to move and press Z to fire, and that's all. But the movement is relatively smooth despite this. Also, when you die, you don't get a game over screen. You just have to restart the level. As far as I can tell, there's no canon reason for this. It was just a development choice. There's no options menu and no choice to save the game, but it's a very short game and one that you're probably not going to replay later, so it really doesn't matter. After getting past all the smaller enemies, the level boss is honestly disappointing. I just stayed on the left side of the screen, held down Z to keep shooting while moving up and down incrementally to dodge bullets. And just exactly what is the final boss? Well, I'll get into that later. For now, just suffice it to say that it's an old man's head that appears to be controlled by some kind of alien device on the back. In the cutscene that follows, nothing of what he says really makes sense. He seems to feel guilty about something. I get the impression this guy maybe turned over Enoch's Hope to the garden. We next get a video of this girl talking to who I would guess is her boyfriend or a fellow dev, something, about how bad this game is and that it's affecting her and making her feel bad. And then we go into the third level. Gameplay-wise, the next level is kind of a reprieve from all the shooting and dying. You just have to run around this barren landscape, which is set up as a fairly straightforward single pathway with some very minor platforming, and find all the people who have been crucified. I presume these were the former inhabitants of Enoch's Hope who were killed by the garden, which continues to fly around in the background. Each person gives you a Bible verse with their dying breath. Find all 7 and the level ends. Design-wise, this level has a lot of problems. Flashing colors. The text is red against a brown background, and therefore difficult to read. And the way the level keeps spinning. Look, I don't have a problem with games that have unusual gravity. It works well in levels like Stage 2 of the Death Egg in Sonic & Knuckles. But this just feels like the devs thought this level was too easy. You can't die in it. There's no hazards at all. So I think maybe they added the spin to throw you off and make it feel like there was some dramatic tension when there isn't. Extremely cheap, shoddy, and annoying attempt to do so, I think. Once again, the music is pretty good. Then we get a cutscene of what appears to be a man saying a prayer of thanks and asking God to lead him back into a closer relationship with God. Which, for the record, is actually a very good thing for a Christian to pray about. But within the context of this game, well, I'll explain my reasoning later. And then we reach the final boss. First of all, no matter how I try to figure it out, I Why the heck is it a giant mutated giraffe? This makes no sense to me, no matter how much I try to figure this out. Giraffes aren't even in the Bible, certainly not in the KJV. I know, I checked. Secondly, it's a really bad bullet hell. Of course, I could be biased when I call it bad, as I've never played any of Toho. All I know of bullet hells is Undertale and a few space shooters. Third, why does it say, "We miss you"? Fourth, this is, hands down, the worst track I've ever heard in any video game ever. And that includes Sonic creepypastas. The rest of the soundtrack was decent or even good, at least in my opinion, but this is nothing but ear rape. This isn't even music. And then we get the same blasé voice actress coming in and saying something about an octopus and a lion and a boa constrictor. Octopi and boa constrictors aren't in the Bible either. The reference makes no sense to me. Now, I'm going to confess something. I didn't actually finish the game. I couldn't get past this bullet spam level. I just kept dying. So I watched a walkthrough to find out what happens, and nothing happens really. You kill the giraffe. You get a screen that says "The End" while really loud guitar music plays, and the game is over. That's it. Oh yeah, not a great game at all. No explanations of what's going on. No conclusion, not even a sense of satisfaction upon completion. You don't even get a sense of, well, this nightmare is finally over. You just walk away feeling like you wasted half an hour to an hour of your life. Now, obviously not every game has to have a plot line. Old games like Galaga, Asteroids, they didn't have much of a plot line. It looked like you were trying to save the universe from flying asteroids or giant insects or whatever. Tetris certainly doesn't have a plot line at all, and it doesn't need one. Perhaps if Uriel's Chasm had left it at that, just gameplay, no attempt at a story whatsoever, we could have forgiven it. But all of the religious overtones just make it incredibly confusing. I came up with two possibilities of what the developers were trying to accomplish, because they clearly know the Bible well enough to know what these verses mean, to some extent at least, and how they fit together. So either developers are Christians who legitimately thought they would spread an understanding of the gospel message of salvation through this game, or the developers are not Christian and were making fun of the Bible, at best, the entire time. To be perfectly honest, I think the only option that's valid is the second one. So here's my interpretation of the story. I at first thought the garden was a reference to the Garden of Eden, where sin first began, and that it was being portrayed as a giant monster that is out to destroy humanity. In the process of making this video essay, I changed my opinion on that. I think the garden is actually supposed to be God portrayed as an alien monster. Or possibly that heaven itself is the monster and God is the mutated giraffe that we see at the end of the game. And that it is out to devour and destroy all humanity. The garden started with Enoch's hope, devouring the monastery and leaving no trace. I think the old man in level 2 is supposed to be Enoch, like the original Enoch from Genesis chapter 5. The implication is that the alien monster called the Garden kidnapped him, took control of his mind, and used him to capture the monastery and now Tabitha. Hence Enoch's guilt and knowing where the people are and what is happening to them. All the people in level 3 were crucified by the Garden and its minions, and they died believing that faith would triumph over the Garden. This does seem to be the implication, as we use Bibles just like the ones we collected in level 1 as bullets to kill the final boss. To be clear, there is nothing in the Bible to suggest that alien life exists, so the entire story of Enoch in this game contradicts the Bible. And please don't come at me in the comments and reference the Book of Enoch. The rest of this game uses the King James Version of the Bible, which does not include the Book of Enoch, so there would be no reason for this game to reference it if they are attempting to make some kind of profound gospel message using the KJV. Rather, it seems that this game took the Book of Enoch, imagined, what if God and angels were actually evil aliens bent on destroying humanity, and went with that notion. Please note that all I know about the Book of Enoch is what I got from 9 years of Supernatural that I watched before I came to Jesus, and a Wikipedia article. I have not read the Book of Enoch myself. Also, yes, I know there's a verse in the Book of Jude that appears to reference the Book of Enoch, but I did a little research on it. Now, I myself am not a Bible scholar, so go do the research for yourself. Don't just quote me, don't just take my word for it. There's a lot of debate about who was referencing who. Was Jude actually referencing Enoch? Was the Book of Enoch actually written after Jude was written and references Jude instead? At this point, it's a chicken or egg argument, and I'm not qualified to try to jump in and give any opinion on it myself. But there are a lot of reasons to believe that Jude was not actually quoting the Book of Enoch itself. There's several different reasons why Jude might be quoting anything else. As for the ending of Uriel's Chasm, like I said, I still don't understand why it's a giraffe. But we have a guy praying to be led into a deeper relationship with God, and then this boss battle that looks and sounds like it was designed by a lunatic, in which we fire Bibles and are told, "We miss you." The only thing I can get from this is the implication that God is some kind of alien monster bent on slaughtering his insane followers. This is the exact opposite of who Jesus is. Jesus is the Son of God. He came not to condemn the world, but to save it. He died for our sins, and God is not going to kill those who believe in him. His goal is to bring us eternal life, not death, not in this life or the next. He does not want us to die. He wants us to live. He loves us. He is not some evil alien monster out to destroy us. In fact, just so we're clear on this, God is not an alien. He is not a physical being at all. Neither are angels. I'm not going to get into discussing angels. That's a completely different topic. But it's hard to explain exactly what God is. But he's not like anything that we have ever met in our experience of this life, because, with the exception of Jesus' mortal body that died on the cross, God is not a physical being that we can interact with like you would with a pencil or something, or even another person. The way the Bible portrays God as the sovereign creator of the universe who created all of mankind to have a close, loving relationship with him. We walked with God and saw God in the Garden of Eden, that is, Adam and Eve did. Our sin put a wedge between us and God. It's not that God doesn't want to reach out to us, but our physical bodies, corrupted by sin, cannot withstand God's pure, beautiful presence. It would kill us. He's distanced himself from us to protect us because he loves us and does not want us to die. And God sent Jesus to die for our sins because he does not want us to go to hell. And Jesus rose from the dead to conquer death so we can go to heaven if we accept what he did for us on the cross and by rising from the grave. I will add one more thing. If by some chance I am wrong about this interpretation of Uriel's Chasm painting God as an alien monster, if this actually was created by a group of game developers who were somehow trying to lead people to Jesus through this, then, well, this serves as the best example I've ever seen of how not to make a Christian game. It's confusing, it's badly written, It's badly executed. It does not portray God in any good light that I can find. What's worse is that it shows just why people have such a negative view of Christianity. Far too many Christians make the Bible too confusing for the masses, painting the world around us as a horrifying, twisted nightmare, and implying that the only way to combat it is to fire Bible verses at people. Literally. This is a twisted way of looking at the Bible, and since I believe that God is sovereign, and allows even really bad things to happen for a reason, bad things like this game, well, maybe he allowed this game to be made as a warning of how not to preach the Bible to people. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video, if not the game, and I hope that I made it clear who God is and that he loves us and that he is nothing like what some people seem to believe that he is. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I just started a Ko-fi page if you want to support the channel. Come leave me a tip. I'll leave the link in the description. And don't play this game, like, ever. Just don't.